want to get into the Word. If you got your Bible with you, turn with me, please, to 1 Kings chapter number 17. 1 Kings chapter number 17. We are closing out our series, Out of the Cave. Out of the Cave. And we've been in this series for about 4 weeks now. Next Sunday, we're going to be starting a new series called Proverbs. How many know Proverbs is where that wisdom is? So we're going to have a series on Proverbs, looking at different Proverbs throughout. Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived, and what he had to say about our lives as followers of Jesus and what it needs to look like as we pursue that relationship. So I encourage you, be here next Sunday for Proverbs. It's going to be an amazing day as we start that series. But we're going to close out today in 1 Kings chapter number 17. And God has prophesied through the prophet named Elijah. And he's prophesied through him and said that there would be a drought, right? He said there's going to be a drought in the land. Now, this is great and all. The problem for Elijah is that the drought is going to be where he is, right? God's like, there's not going to be any rain or anything where you're at. So Elijah's given this prophecy and he's like, there will be no rain, there will be no dew for years. Wait, what? Like, hey, God, I'm here. I don't really want to say this, right? You ever had a time that you've really felt like God was saying something, but you were like, I saw something going around this week, and there's a song by Maverick City Music, and in it says, I want to be, like, refined by fire. And somebody was like, I don't sing that part. It's like, yeah, I feel that. Because, like, there's times where God is saying something, and it's like, I don't really want to, like, tie hold of that. But if we're not going to fully follow God, then we might as well just not do it at all. So Elijah continues saying what God is saying at this moment, and God says there's not gonna be rain, there's not gonna be dew, and the beautiful thing about God is that he always takes care of his children, right? And so God continues on talking to Elijah, and he says this in 1 Kings 17:2, says, then the word of the Lord came to Elijah, leave here, turn eastward, and hide in the Karith Ravine, east of the Jordan. You will drink from the brook, and I have directed the ravens to supply you with food there. Now, you haven't really prayed over your food until it's been delivered by a bird, right? And I know some of y'all are like, no, if God provided my food, I'd be good with it. It would be amazing. It'd be wonderful. No, some of y'all, you don't even like having other people serve you food. Right? You won't eat food that people serve you, much less a bird. So these ravens show up. He says, so he did what the Lord told him. He went to the Karith Ravine, east of the Jordan, and stayed there. So God told him to leave one place, to go to another, and to stay there. The ravens brought him food, brought him bread, brought him meat in the morning, and bread and meat in the evening. And he drank from the brook. And sometime later, the brook dried up because there had been no rain in the land. Then the word of the Lord came to him, go at once to Zarephath in the region of Sidon and stay there. All right, so God has already told him to leave where he was, to go somewhere else, and to stay there. Now God shows up again. He says, I want you to leave where you are. I want you to go somewhere else, and I want you to stay there. Once again, go at once to Zarephath in the region of Sidon and stay there. I have directed a widow there to supply you with food. So we have Elijah who has been instructed by God to leave where he is and to go somewhere else. So he goes where God leads him, and God provides for him there for a moment, and things are good for a moment, and he's doing what God has told him to do there for a moment. And then all of a sudden, God shows up again and says, hey, I want you to leave here and I want you to go somewhere else again, and I'm going to provide for you there. What I'm trying to help you see is that God is always leading and directing. God is always guiding. And what happens so often is we obey God once, maybe twice. If we're really feeling it, we'll obey him 3 times. But then it kind of stops there. And we become comfortable and we become complacent in that place. And we follow this instruction once to go where God said to go. And then we settle in. We got the brook. We got ravens bringing the food. We don't even have to lift a finger. This is amazing. And then God's like, hey, I want you to go again. And we're like, no. Like, I got it good. I got the brook. Go bother somebody else, right? Like, I heard them complaining. I'm not complaining, God. Like, I'm good here in the Karith Ravine where you told me to come and to hang out. I'm good. But God said, no, it's time to leave this place too. And because we become so comfortable where we're at and we feel like, hey, I obeyed God. I listened to what he said to do. I followed his word. He told me to break up with that person. Now I'm in a new relationship with this person. I'm good. I don't need to have to break up with this person and go, I'm good. He told me to go to this job. I'm good. I don't need to be uplifted from this job and go to another career. I'm good. And because we're comfortable where God led us once, or maybe even twice, when he comes at us again, we don't want to go. And eventually, the brook dries up, and we're stuck blaming God for a decision that we made. See, God said, listen, I want you to go to the brook. And he provided for him there for a season. And there were ravens for a season. But God showed back up and he said, Elijah, don't stop there. You obeyed that instruction, but don't stop there. I still got something else that I need you to do. I still got somewhere else that you need to go. And I believe this morning as we close out this series, Out of the Cave, that's what God's saying to us today. He's saying, you've obeyed one instruction. You might have obeyed two. You might have obeyed three. But don't stop there. Let's pray. God, I thank you for today. I thank you that we have the opportunity to gather together to hear your word preached. Lord, I pray that you would speak to our hearts, that you would help us to have open ears to hear and to receive from you. I pray that you would help our hearts to be open to receive from you. Lord, may nobody see or hear from me today, but to only see and to hear from you. I thank you for who you are, what you're going to do in Jesus' name. And everybody said, amen. Now, do any of you have a place in your life where you know just enough about something to be dangerous? You know, like just enough, like my men, like we know just enough about electricity to be dangerous, or just enough about pyrotechnics and fire to be dangerous. Like we know just enough about things to be dangerous. And the problem is a lot of times we lie to ourselves and we make ourselves think that we know more about something than we really do. I'm not that type person, right? I'm gonna be honest if I don't really know about something. For instance, cars, right? I know about cars, I know what good cars are, I know what bad cars are, but I don't have a clue how to diagnose when something goes wrong. Much less do I know how to fix it. You got people who, they don't know about their cars, but they try to fix it themselves, they end up breaking it. I'm not one of those people. Like if I don't know about the car, I'm not even going to try to fix it. And back about 3 to 4 years ago, I got this truck back when cars were like reasonably priced. You know, before like the 30 to 40% increase. And I got this truck and I got it at an auction, right? I have a friend who owns a used car dealership. He gave me his auction login, so I was able to log in. I got this car from Canada, and they were like, it's got some rust underneath it. And I was like, that's cool. I got spray paint. It's okay, no problem. I'm gonna spray paint it black. It's no big deal. So I got this car for like the low, right? Before, like back in the day. And on this truck is, you know, it's got like some aftermarket wheels that I liked. It's got this bumper thing, you know, that has like little hook things on it. You can put it, I don't know. And then it's got like 4-wheel drive, right? So the 4-wheel drive is important because my wife Nicole is a nurse and she cannot miss work. Like when the snowstorms come to Georgia, you know, when it gets to like 1.5, 2 inches and you can't drive, I got to get her to work, right? So we got the 4x4 truck. I can take her to work and then pick her up. I can be her knight in shining armor, you know, like her chauffeur and take her. And so we have 4-wheel drive, and that's how I bought it. I know nothing about it. I don't know how it works. I don't know how the parts are on there. I don't know the sizes. I know nothing. But without fail, people still want to ask me, yo, what size tires you got on that thing? Like, normal? Yeah. They're like, What's the lift kit on that? Is that a 2? Is that a 4? Is that a 6? I'm like, 8. Who do we appreciate? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I bought it this way, right? I don't understand the inner workings. And so when something goes wrong, I don't know what to do except for call somebody who does know how to do it. And the good thing is, even though I know nothing, I have friends who do, right? And so I'll call them. And back a few Sundays ago, after church, I had an appointment that I had to go to, and I was like, hey, I'm going to take Nicole and the boys. They can just wait in the truck while I do this. And so we went and got some lunch, got some frozen custard. It was amazing. It was so good. And then we go to this appointment. I go in. When I get back out, the boys are in my front seat. And they're like fake driving, and turning the air conditioning, doing things kids do, whatever. It's cool. So I get them, and I put them in their car seats, and we drive home. And everything's great until I go to pull into the driveway, and the truck is just like, just like that, just like, and I was like, I'm sorry? Like, Sunday afternoon, right? It's the day of rest, which means I can't take it anywhere to get it fixed. I can't call my friends to come fix it because it's a day of rest, so I don't need any problems with this truck. So I have Nicole in the car, of course, so I got to get out like I know what I'm doing. So I park, and I'm like, oh, it's okay. Let me just do a walk around. Let me just see what's going on. So I get out, and I'm like walking around, and I'm looking at the tires, and I'm like, I think that's got air. That's good. I'm like checking all the tires, and then I go around, and I'm like, I'm over on her side, right? Because I want her to see, like, oh, hey, what is he doing? So I'm like this underneath, I'm looking underneath, and I'm like, oh, yeah. And I come out, and I was like, babe, I don't know. There's something leaking. She was like, I think that's the air conditioning. I know. Yeah, I think it is too. Yeah, it's the air conditioning. Yeah, that's what it is. So I get back in the truck, and I drive on up to the driveway, and I park it right outside the garage, and Nicole and the boys go in. I'm like, babe, I'm just going to check this out for a little bit more. I think I'm going to be able to figure this out. So I get my phone out, and I call Mike Fitzhenry. I had to wait till she went inside, because see, now she knows, but it's okay. But I needed her to think I actually was doing something. So I called Mike Fitzhenry, like, hey, man. Like, hey, something's wrong with my truck. I just need to know. I had to preface it, right? Poor Mike, he answered the phone like he knew, right? He's like, hello. Like he knows what's coming. So I'm like, hey, Mike, like, listen, I just need to know, can I make it to the mechanic on Monday, right? Like, I just don't want my truck to blow up or a wheel to come off, because there was one time I was driving my truck and the bearing was completely bad, and they said at any point my wheel could have just blown off. I just thought it was loud. Like, I thought the truck was just loud. I didn't know. So I'm just like, I don't want it to blow up on me. I don't want to lose something. So he's like, okay. He said, well, what size engine do you have? I'm like, one that runs. He's like, is it a 5.2? Is it a 6.2? And it's like, Mike, come on, man, you know me. Like, why are you even asking me? It's like, okay. He's like, so he's pulling up all these things, I'm guessing, on his phone. And finally he says, I think that you're going to be good. I think you can make it to the mechanic on Monday. You'll be good. And I'm like, cool. So I go to pull the truck into the garage, and something in me was just like, let's just drive it again, right? Like, let's just go again around the driveway. So I get back in the truck, I turn it on, and I back it up, and I'm feeling it's like, and I was like, come on. And I just stop, and I just look at everything. And I look to the left of the steering wheel, and I see that there's this little knob that has a 2 and a 4 on it. And the boys had twisted it to 4 low, which is like apparently not good to be driving normal. I don't know. So they put it on 4 low. So I was like, let me just see what this does. So I twisted it to the 2, and it drove like a dream. Absolutely amazing. So we drove 30 minutes in 4 low, probably getting like 5 miles to the gallon. But I switched it to the 2, it completely fixed the thing. I don't know if that's normal. I don't know if it's supposed to be that way, but it's that way now. I'm not taking it to the mechanic. But if I'd have never gotten back in and driven it again, if I wouldn't have been willing to go when something inside me said to go, then I would have walked up in the mechanic looking like a crazy person on Monday. I'd have been the talk of the mechanic. But because I was willing to go again, I was able to find the solution. I just wanted to stand on the outside and just kind of stay there and like look around. But because I got in and was willing to go, I was able to find the solution. And the first thing I need you to write down if you're taking notes today is you have to go there. You got to go. You got to go. You got to be willing to say, listen, I'm going to leave where I am and I'm going to go. It says in verse number 3, leave here, turn eastward and hide in the Karith Ravine east of the Jordan. You will drink from the brook, and I have directed the ravens to supply you with food there. Leave here and go. He said, if you leave where you're at, then the ravens will supply food for you there. But God said, you need to go. If you stay here, you're going to die. If you stay here, you're going to starve. If you stay here, it's not going to work out. But if you will go, then I will provide for you in the place where I am leading you. And God is so amazing because he always has it perfectly planned out. When he tells you to go, it may not make sense to you. You may not understand it, but God has it planned out. God's like, listen, there's gonna be some ravens bringing food. There's gonna be some water in the brook, but you have to leave here and go there. God is always providing in the place where he's leading. He will always sustain you. God is not leading you somewhere just to be like, haha, joke's on you. Pulled the rug out from underneath you. Haven't you learned not to listen to me? No, God's not doing. God will always provide in the place where he's leading. If God led you there, God will provide for you there. The provision may look different than what you thought. You may have wanted somebody to be there to help make you cook a nice little meal, and instead you got the Bird Express just dropping meat down from the sky. But it doesn't matter. God is still providing. Don't get so wrapped up in how God needs to provide that you miss when he is providing. We're like, this isn't what I wanted. This isn't how I wanted it to go. I didn't want to spend all these days by myself with a bird. Like the first bird flew, right? Like ravens flew over, they dropped the food. I don't want this. But we get so caught up in how God is doing it that we completely miss what he is doing. Even if it's not what you wanted, it is still miraculous. The fact that every day Elijah could know without fail, he could have a guarantee that food was gonna be on his plate, that water was gonna be in the brook, that's a miracle. When everybody else was having this drought and this famine, Elijah's there being provided for. It's a miracle. Just because it's not how you wanted it doesn't make it any less miraculous. We gotta learn to praise and to celebrate and to thank God no matter how it looks and how it feels. He's not trying to trick you. We gotta stop living our lives and making decisions as if God is trying to bamboozle us. God is not trying to bamboozle you. He wants to bless you. He's not trying to trick you. He wants to bless you. He wants to provide for you. He wants to be there for you. He wants to lead you. He wants to guide you. And many of us are treating God like he's the person that betrayed us. Many of us have been betrayed by somebody. We've been bamboozled by somebody before. We've been betrayed by somebody before. We've been tricked by somebody before. And we're treating God as if he is the one who did all of that. Well, I followed somebody before, and they led me to a mess. Broken heart, busted and disgusted, crying myself to sleep at night, broken dreams. I followed somebody and they led me there before. So now every relationship that we go into, we're just dragging that along, allowing that person and the way they treated us to be the model by which we expect the next person to treat us, instead of expecting to see the next person treat us the way that God would treat us. And we're carrying it around, and we're treating people that God sends into our lives as if they are the one who betrayed us, or bamboozled us, or tricked us. And I sympathize with this, right? Because I've been bamboozled. How many have been bamboozled? Let me see a show of hands. Like, you've been bamboozled. Somebody has tricked you, like all over the place. Online, put like a thumbs up, something in the chat. Like, you've been bamboozled. You've been tricked, and I sympathize with that because the pain is real. When you're tricked or abandoned, it's real. But here's the thing. It wasn't God. It wasn't God. If you follow people, you may get bamboozled. But if you follow God, you can know, you can rest in the guarantee that he is going to provide in the place where he has taken you. And what has happened for so many of us is we're here and we're struggling and we're barely making it, and we're barely getting by, and we're barely keeping our head above water, and we're not sure if we're gonna make it through this thing, and it's just a struggle here. And we're complaining to God. God, why won't you provide for me? God, why won't you care for me? God, why won't you come through for me? God, why won't you do it for me? And God's like, I am providing for you. I'm just providing for you there. We're here, God is providing there. We're over in this comfortable place. This is nice, this feels warm and fuzzy, and God is providing over there. You cannot advance there if you will not exit here. You cannot step into the new season that God has for your life if you're not willing to exit the old season. You can't see what God is wanting to provide for you there if you're staying stuck here. You can't see the new thing. And we're like, God, why aren't you doing it? Why aren't you providing? Why aren't you showing up? God is providing there, but you just decided to stay here. We get all bent out of shape and upset that God's not doing what he said he would do, but the truth is he's doing exactly what he said he would do in the place that he said he would do it. But until you're willing to leave here and go there, you're not gonna see it. The ravens were never going to supply food in the place where Elijah was. The ravens were gonna provide in the Karith Ravine. And if Elijah would have been like, no, this is where I've always known, this is where I've always been, this is what I planned for, these are my people, this is where I gotta stay, these are my friends, he never would have seen the provision that God was wanting to do in the Karith Ravine. And for a lot of us, it's not that God hasn't told us where to go. It's just that we're too stubborn to actually do it. It's not that God hasn't shown us a way out. Some of us, we have so much bitterness and unforgiveness in our lives that we can't even love the people God's given us well. And we're like, why do I sabotage? And why do I do this? And why am I hurting everybody? And why am I turning away the people that love me? And why am I betraying the people that love me? And why am I doing this? God, give me an answer. And God says, because you still are over there. You're still rehearsing all the pain there. You're still rehearsing all the hurt over here. And I'm trying to get you there. But until you let go of here, then I can't bring you there. God is providing there, but we have to make our decision. I'm going to leave where I'm at, and I'm going to go to the place that God is leading me. And once we get there, once we go there, we can grow there. So you gotta go, and then you got a second thing, grow. You gotta grow. When God gives an instruction, the very first thing we gotta do is obey. The very first thing we gotta do is we gotta be willing to go. But once we obey and go, then we are able to grow. The problem is a lot of us wanna grow, but we don't wanna have to go. God, I wanna grow where I'm at. I wanna grow in this job. I wanna grow in this relationship. I wanna grow with these people. I wanna grow in this place. But until you leave where you're at and go to the place that God is telling you to go, then you're not going to be able to grow. Verse number 5, it said, he did what the Lord told him. He went to the Karith Ravine east of the Jordan and stayed there. And the ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning and bread and meat in the evening. He drank from the brook. Okay, but look at the sequence here because it's important. It says that he did what God said, he went where God said, and then he stayed there. This is a series on leaving the cave. How are we staying there? It's gonna tie all together, I promise. He left where God told him to leave, he went where God told him to go, and then he stayed in that place. Once we get where God is leading, we can grow, but we have to stay there. we have to stay there. It says that once he left there, once he got where God was telling him to go, that he stayed there. It is important for us to stay planted where God leads us. So many of us spend all of our time daydreaming about where we want to be, that we're missing the miracle God is doing in the place where we are supposed to be. We're so busy just thinking about how we want it to be this thing and we want it to be that thing that we're missing what God is doing in the place where he's led us. Some of us are constantly worrying about what's next, and we're missing the miracle, and we're misunderstanding, we're not seeing that he's doing everything now that we used to pray for. Some of us are so caught up in trying to change things that we once prayed for. And God led us there. He said, God, like, if you just protect me, I don't care what it looks like. Then God gets us there, and we're protected, we're provided for. God, I don't want it like this. I want something different. God's like, but you're right in the place that you once prayed for. You're right in the circumstance that you once prayed for, and now you've changed your mind. But if you keep leaving on your own volition, if you keep moving around going where you feel comfortable or where you think you want to be, and you don't stay planted, then you cannot grow. You can't grow and you can't increase. You have to stay planted where God calls you. And I know this is a series, like I said, out of the cave, right? We're leaving the cave. But don't miss the opportunity to grow while you're there. Don't miss the opportunity to get stronger while you're there, to be provided for while you're there. However, with that being said, here's the problem. This is where most of us stop. In the Karith Ravine, this is where many of us stop. Because God told us to leave here and to go there. So we obeyed and we did it. But then we get comfortable, and then it feels familiar. And then even though God speaks to us again and tells us this ain't it, you need to keep going, we're like, but this feels too good. This is too familiar now. This is too comfortable now. And it's good for a while, and it's great for a while, but then the brook dries up. But because we became so comfortable in that place, we're not willing to go to the place that God has once again told us to go. God told us to come here, and we get there, and it's cool, and it's great. Now God's telling us to go again, and we're like, but God, you told me to come here. I don't want to have to go anywhere. I've obeyed you once. I obeyed once. And like we go 20 years talking about the one time we obeyed God. I remember when God told me to go and I went. Cool, like last week? No. Last month? No. Last year? No. 20 years ago. That's cool. You think God might have had something a little better for you between those last 20 years? You think God might have wanted to take you somewhere a little better in those last 20 years? You think that the relationship that you turned into forever, that was supposed to be never, was supposed to be just like a little learning curve? You think God might have had something better if you would have made a decision to continue to follow his instruction? See, we follow him, we obey him, and then we pat ourselves on the back like we've done our job. And we want our medal. We want our trophy. And God said, no, no, no. He says, I want you to go. Then I want you to grow. And now, last thing, I want you to go. Go, grow, go. It's a cycle. Go, grow, go. Go, grow, go. I'm going to go where God tells me to go. I'm going to grow in the place God led me. And now I'm going to go where God tells me to go. Follow me here. God led him to the Karith Ravine. He said, I want you to leave where you are, and I want you to go to the Karith Ravine. So he went to the Karith Ravine. He obeyed. And once he gets there, God provides. He gives him ravens. He gives him the brook. He has all of this stuff, and everything is great. Elijah is protected. He is provided for. He is planted in this place. Everything is wonderful. And all of the sudden, God shows up again and says, I want you to go. I'm not just saying this, I'll read it to you. Verse number 8, it said, then the word of the Lord came to him. Now I know Elijah, he's got to be lonely down there, but he's being provided for. He's on the run for his life. He is just hoping to survive. The last thing he wants to do is have to leave a place where he feels safe and protected. In fact, God himself told Elijah, go to the Karith Ravine, and it literally says, hide there. Hide there. And some of us have been in a season of hiding. We've been in a season and a place where we've been hiding and we've been growing and we've been getting stronger, and God has been preparing us and he has been getting us ready for the next thing. But when he's come to us to tell us to go again, we don't want to listen. It said, then the word of the Lord came to him, go at once to Zarephath in the region of Sidon and stay there. So God told him to go to Karith Ravine. He's there for a while. Now God tells him to leave there, to go to Zarephath in the region of Sidon and stay there. I have directed a widow there to supply you with food. God said, go at once to Zarephath. And then look at this, watch this. He says, I have instructed a widow where? There, to provide you with food. He didn't say the widow's coming to the Karith Ravine. He didn't say just hang out a little longer. Somebody's gonna come cook you some like Chef Boyardee. It's gonna be amazing. You don't have to worry about the birds. He said, no, you've gotta leave here and go there. I have instructed a widow there to supply you with food. Elijah obeyed God once and went. But now God has shown up and told him, Elijah, I need you to obey me again and go again. I need you to leave where you are and go again. Please do not miss this. The brook was not a bad place. The Karith Ravine was not a bad place. God provided for him there. God fulfilled what he said. He protected him. He provided for him in the Karith Ravine. It was not a bad place. The problem was it wasn't forever. It was a season. It was temporary. It was where God was providing in that moment. And if Elijah would have stayed there, he would have died. All he would have done was delay the inevitable. He survived the famine and the drought in the Karith Ravine for a little bit, but guess what? Now that's gonna dry up. And many of us, we've just been playing survival. Just, if I can just survive this thing, if I can just make it through this thing, if I can just get to a place where I've got a little bit of bread and a little bit of meat and some brook, I'm good here. And we've been playing survival, and we're wondering why it's drying up in our lives and why we have this feeling that we're missing something greater that God has for us, that we're missing something bigger that God is wanting to do. We're wondering why the things that we once relied on in the place where we were have started to slowly disappear. And it's because God said, if I left it there the whole time, that's where you would stay. If you had the bread and the meat and the water the whole time in the Karith Ravine, that's exactly where you would stay. But guess what? That's not where you were supposed to end up. You weren't supposed to stop there. It was a yield sign. And I know y'all don't know what yield signs mean, because I've seen some of us driving. It wasn't a stop sign, it was a yield sign. We were just supposed to be there for a moment. But we became so comfortable, so God said, I've got to remove the brook, the ravens, not coming by anymore, because I don't want you to stay here. I want you to go there. The whole time. Because if God would have told Elijah, I want you to go all the way to Zarephath, the journey alone would have terrified him. He wasn't ready for it. He needed to hide and to heal in the Karith Ravine. And that's great to have a time of healing and hiding. But when God says that time is up and it's time to go, you're not just healing just to feel better about yourself. You're healing because you have a purpose and you have a plan, and there's something that God is wanting to do for you. Elijah had to get to Zarephath so that he could heal the widow's son. But if he would have stayed there, he never would have been able to do what God was wanting him to do. So God said, I need you to leave here. I need you to go there. And what tends to happen is we obey God. We obey him twice. I've taken 2 steps of faith. God, I got 2 feet, and I've taken 2 steps. Go me. Look at me. Pat myself on the back. Hang my hat on that. I'm a great follower of Jesus because I obeyed him twice in my long life of 90, 95, 100 years. 100, do I hear it? 110. In my long life, I obeyed twice. That's great. But God said, because you didn't obey the 3rd time, you missed the 4th time. Because you missed the 4th time, you missed the 5th time. Because you missed the 5th time, you missed the 6th time. Because you missed the 6th time, you missed the 7th time. And the reason that you're in the same place that you've always been, and it seems like you're never gonna get out of it, and you're never gonna get over it, and you've been so frustrated trying to figure out why am I just in the same place 15 years later that I was 15 years ago when they hurt me? Why am I in the same place 15 years later that I was 15 years ago when I started my first job? Why am I in the same place 15 years later that I was 15 years ago when I started in ministry? It's because we've become disobedient in the 3rd and in the 4th and in the 5th. But we've convinced ourselves that we're obedient because we obeyed him once or twice. And we pat ourselves on the back. But God is always leading. Every day, he is leading. Every day, he is directing. Every day, he is guiding. And he is saying, go. Okay, cool. Now stay here and grow a little bit. Okay, now you need to go again. He's up there, he's like, why are you still there? Why are you still in the same place that you've been? Don't stop there. You need to go, but don't stop there. You need to grow, but don't stop there. Then you need to go again, but don't stop there. Because your life is not a sprint, it is a journey. And all along the journey, God is directing and he is guiding, and he will always lead us to a place that he'll provide. So if the place where you're at has dried up and it seems like that's all that it's been, you might just need to turn the listening up a little bit. I'm not saying go on your own volition, because that's a whole nother thing. But you might need to say, God, am I really listening to what you have to say, or have I become too comfortable in the place where I am? As long as we go when God says to go, and we plant when God says to plant, and we go when God says to go, we're able to see what God wants us to see. But it takes full, and watch this, continual obedience. Full obedience and continual obedience, where we say, God, I'm not gonna stop here. I know you led me here, but I'm not gonna stop there. I'm gonna go over here. Now I'm there, I've grown, but now I'm gonna go there. I'm going to obey you fully, completely, and continually. When you tell me to sit down and to hide, I'm gonna sit down and hide and grow. But when you tell me it is time to go, I'm not going to allow my comfort. I'm not going to allow where I've been. I'm not going to allow how I feel to dictate my level of obedience. And God, when you say it's time to go, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna move. God, when you say it's time to move, I'm gonna move. When you say it's time to leave, I'm gonna leave. When you tell me don't stop there, I'm not gonna stop there, but I'm going to keep going every step of the way so that I can see the fullness and the fulfillment of all you wanna do in my life.